Spartans, tonight we dine in hell. Anyways, so that's one of the lines of the movie of 300, which I'm going to do a sort of reaction review today for its ending. And I'm going to teach you guys a bit about this battle, the Battle of Thermopylae, as it was called, where, well, contrary to general belief, it wasn't just 300 Spartans who defended it. It was actually up to 7,000 Greeks who were available for it, and 300 of them were Spartans. So others from other city-states other than the Spartans said, we want to be part of this. And Leonidas of the Spartans took an army of basically about 7,000 Greeks, and they successfully for about a couple of days defended and delayed, more importantly, the Persians from actually defeating them and going into Greece before everyone is ready to defend against them, you know. And thanks to that and a couple of other battles that happened, the Battle of Salamis, which happened at sea, and it was masterminded by the great Themistocles, who was later banished, funny enough. Funny how things worked in ancient Greece. And also afterwards, the Battle of Plataea, which was the battle, of course, on ground. And basically, us Greeks, we beat the crap out of the Persians. It's just how it is. So I've been wanting to do a video about this for a very long time. And I sort of thought to watch the ending of the 300, the film, and sort of discuss things, different things, and try and bring the actual reality about what happened. So yeah. Let's go into it. We're gonna, I'm gonna press play, and I'm gonna just be discussing different things anyways as we go. Let's have a look at this. Oh my God, I just love this scene, man. So they defy Xerxes, who is the king of the Persians, and then Leonidas.
He must see far. His shield was heavy.
All right, look, first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. All right, let's be honest. They never used to dress like that. So I can show you right now what they actually kind of dressed as is sort of... There you go. So they kind of would have dressed like this. And in fact, I have a more close-up shot as well. And that's more like what Spartans actually used to dress as. That silliness about them dressing with pretty much Speedos was just to kind of sexualize them a bit, probably. And to just... It was Frank Miller's comic novel. You know, it was his interpretation. This is what that film is based on. So you need to understand, it was a comic book that was created, inspired by the story of the 300 Spartans. So that's why people look like that. You've even got this monster with weird crabby hands decapitating people at one point. Ephialtes looks, who betrayed the Spartans. He looks, you know, like he's some sort of deformed hunchback, which I know why Frank Miller would have done it. And it's because Spartans were not really very kind of nice to their babies when they were born if they were deformed. But by the way far off of what actual legend says, you know. A lot of people think that they used to discard the bad babies. That apparently, if you do deeper research, it says that that wasn't necessarily actually the case, but they weren't looked after very well, and the Spartans weren't very fond of even their own babies if they were deformed. But Ephialtes was not deformed. He really, really wasn't. He was actually just a normal guy who ended up betraying for probably money, status, power, whatever, money probably, the 300. And yeah, but we delayed them enough.
It threw him off balance, and his target is far away.
I mean, the defense is important to the Spartans. You know, these guys were bred for war. All their life, their morals were like, their principles were to die at battle is the greatest honor for them. All they did all their life is basically train to be the perfect soldiers. So they would have needed the shields and things to be able to, you know, defend off weapons that are coming at them, right? So anyway, so here he shows that Xerxes was not a god. Look, also in truth, many people believe that, many people used to believe that everyone in that served Persia back in those days thought that Xerxes was a god. I don't think everyone thought that. He obviously did pretend to be a god, just like the Egyptians, pharaohs used to act like they were gods, and probably for them, people believed them more. But actually, in truth, people did know they were human, but you know, your king was your king back then. So here he shows that he is a mortal, that he can bleed. Oh man. When I watched this when I was a teenager, I was like, no. Oh, Leonidas is down. And this was my favorite scene ever. He gets done like that by three weapons, swords, spears, bam, and he keeps going. Oh man. Oh yes. I get chills every time I watch this. If there's something that isn't fiction, is that a Spartan would have been capable of that. And then obviously they finish him off. And there goes
The old
Leonidas.
ones say we Spartans are descended from Hercules himself.
The legend is that Spartans were descended from Hercules himself, right? Now, I never understood that as a Greek person. I would have always thought it made more sense if the Spartans would have actually been descendants of Achilles, who was a warrior, but he wasn't, you know, Hercules had, and also Achilles may have actually been a real person, because they're saying that the Trojan War may have happened. There's evidence out there, archaeological evidence, that shows that the Trojan War once upon a time may have actually happened. But Hercules, it's not. He's pure myth. And it's highly less likely that Hercules existed, unless he was also based on this real man that once existed who was so strong, you know. But yeah, to me, it made more sense that they would have been descended of Achilles. But that is what the legend says. They are descendants of Hercules. Hercules was, his heart was pure good though. Hercules would have never ever, you know, not been proud of a deformed baby. He would have always fought for justice for everyone. He was a more gentle, good soul. He was just, you know, gifted, or some, you could say, cursed with having super strength. So, and you know, everything that came in his way, he defeated. And then of course he was eventually betrayed by Hera, who was very jealous of him. Anyway, but yeah.
Old Leonidas gives testament to our bloodline. His roar is long and loud.
I love this. It's just, this is like peak masculinity, this film. Oh, it's sad. That's right, bleed, bitch. The Spartans, you know, thanks to them and the 7,000 Greeks who initially went to defend at the Battle of Thermopylae, you know, what they did, you know, delayed the Persians, and eventually the two other battles that came after. So the Battle of Thermopylae here would have been about 480 BC. And then within a year, the Battle of Salamis happened, where the Persians would have brought in. So anyway, if you look here, right, you've got kind of what happened with the Battle of Salamis. The Persian ships, the Persian ships would have come in, and we basically, where it says city of Salamis, we kind of trapped them in there, right? So we trapped them in this kind of area in the middle, and we surrounded them around, so the inner ships couldn't really battle outwards because it was their own ships, right? So what happened was we fought them from the outside in, and we destroyed a lot of their ships, and then with some of them they ran away, but also the Greeks went after them actually, and they still managed to destroy some of them in the area, blah blah blah. And so that was the Battle of Salamis. And then after that, the Battle of Plataea happened, which was at ground basically, and a shitload of Greeks versus Persians basically. But once again, our strategies were always superior, and also the Greeks fought with more spirit. Sorry, but the truth is that, for example, the Spartans, even their own kings were treated in the same way when they were younger, right? So you know, there was no hypocrisy. So how could you not follow your king, you know, if he's the kind of king that when he was younger, he was trained in the same way as you, he was treated as harshly to be able to grow strong? How can you not follow that versus following a king who's just sitting on his throne ruling, making you fight his battles, sitting back and enjoying? The Greeks fought in the front line, and it was the same with Alexander the Great. He fought in the front line with his men. That's why Greeks, they won so many important battles. I'm not saying there weren't battles that the Greeks lost, but the very important ones that shaped the future, like these three battles here that commence with the Battle of Thermopylae, these were key to stopping the Persians from taking over Europe. And I mean, God knows where we would have been today if the Persians hadn't stopped if the Greeks hadn't stopped the Persians from taking over. So a very, very important one.
My king.
How can you not be okay with dying if you're dying next to your king? All of this, very true. And
to die at your side. It's an honor to have lived at yours.
Another myth is, like in this story, is that he went down, you know, on the last stand here with his men, and actually the truth is that he in fact went down a bit before, and they had to recover his body, and because he was killed, you know, that made the Greeks fight even harder. And in fact, with the death of the Spartans, the later battles that the Spartans fought, like the Battle of Plataea, with about 6,000 more Spartans fought, I think somewhere along those lines, they fought 2-3 times as bravely and as incredibly because of the sacrifice that Leonidas and the 300 and obviously a few of the others did for them, you know. So yeah, and how, you know, as I said, they were defending at Thermopylae well because there was a narrowing in Thermopylae, right? You know, that's the narrowing that they would have had the thousands of Persians go into, and the Persians just could not get through the, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 Greek soldiers that were there per time, because our formations were just too good. And the Persians, they just didn't, I told you, that the morale was never, who am I actually fighting for? No one. Their kings just used them for battle, you know. So it was amazing. And then what happened is this traitor called Ephialtes, he was Greek himself. Some say he may have been Spartan. You know, he told the Xerxes about a pass behind the mountain, and the Persians managed to go through that and come at the Greeks from from an angle that they would have never been able to fight from. And also with their arrows, if you're thinking there's 10-20,000 Persians around, all their arrows would have just destroyed. The air beats ground. So yeah, that was sad that Ephialtes did that. And for those who didn't know, Ephialtes is actually the word that Greeks use to mean nightmare. So when you have a nightmare in Greek, you actually say you have an Ephialtes. Believe it or not. And it's all thanks to this guy who did one of the most unspeakable betrayals in the history of time, and told Xerxes about how to be able to find a path to lead to being able to defeat the 300 and the rest of them. Here we go. So you're about to see the arrows that block the sun out. The legend says there were so many arrows it blocked the sun out. See the arrows. Let's pause there already. You can see a few there. Legend has it, one of Leonidas' soldiers said to him that there would be so many arrows that they would block the sun. And Leonidas said to him, then we're going to fight in the shade. Literally, these guys just weren't scared, man. It was, you got to understand it, especially about the Spartans, that their life was dedicated to being the perfect fighting machines. Yeah. So he didn't care. You can say whatever you want to him. The guy was going to stay there and valiantly battle till the end. And all his men were going to follow him till the end. And the other Greeks were the same. It wasn't called Greece back then, of course. So when I speak of the Greek spirit, I generalize for now, just because that area is now called Greece, of course. But that's what we were generally, the Greeks. So, you know, the Athenians, the Thespians, etc. You know, all of these guys still had the incredible spirits the spirit that the Spartans would have had. It's just maybe the other city-states other than Sparta were not as perfect fighting machines as the Spartans, but look, equally they were still very good. They were all amazing. But yes, and then I've got the other bit of the ending here.
As simple an order as a king can give. Remember why we died.
Remember why we died. This made all of Greece want to rise up and defeat the Persians.
A song. No monuments, no poems of war and valor. His wish was simple.
Remember us.
Remember us, he said to me.
Oh, that's a lot of arrows.
Should any free soul come
God damn. That is literally what would have happened. That is not fiction. That is how many arrows would have taken them down. However, as I said, in the real story, what actually happened, Leonidas goes down before the rest of the 300 and the few Greeks that remained with them. He went down before. So actually, he wouldn't have died in this scene. He would have died a bit before, and then the rest of them would have died in what was the sort of final moment of the Battle of Thermopylae, which, of course, they ended up losing. But they held for 2 days, which was long enough for Greece to get themselves together, the other city-states to gather themselves together, and to be able to fight and think about how they're going to defeat the Persians.
from the ageless stones.
A great line coming up.
Tell the Spartans passerby. Spartans to you from the ageless stones.
This is a great line.
Go tell the Spartans passerby that here
upon Spartan law we lie. So that was a very famous line there, and actually there's a monument for Leonidas in Greece, in Sparta, that says this very line. Go tell a friend passerby that here upon Spartan law we lie. They were never going to run away, man. They stay. Here's the thing though, however, Leonidas did stay with some other Greeks there, but not all 7,000 men stayed. Leonidas made some of them, I believe the true story is that he made some of them go back to tell the rest of the Greeks about how it all went and to get them to have a spirit to fight back. So obviously he sacrificed himself, and those who wanted to really stay, stayed, and they sacrificed themselves for the greater good. And guess what? It worked, because we stopped the Persians, and now we're all Greek or Cypriot or British or German or Russian. Maybe Russia would it have affected them as much? Probably. Or there's Turkey, there's whatever, man. Italy, of course, the Romans. Rome came after. If Persia had taken over, maybe there would have never ever been Rome. Not necessarily really the truth. I'm not going to state things that are not necessarily factual, but it's not an impossibility that Rome would have never come to be. The Persians may have taken over more of Europe. Xerxes may have gone on, but he did not.
And so my king died.
I love this last bit.
My brothers died. Barely a year ago. Long I pondered my king's
cryptic talk of victory.
Time has proven him wise. But from free Greek to free Greek, the word was spread that bold Leonidas and his 300, so far from home, laid down their lives, not just for Sparta.
This is actually now him at the Battle of Plataea, so the ground battle, right? And if we just Google Battle of Plataea, this is the more realistic numbers of what it was. A lot of people think the Greeks were massively outnumbered, but I don't think they were. At worst, it would have been 2-1, and some even think it was pretty similar numbers for the Battle of Plataea. For obviously Thermopylae, we were heavily, unmatched in terms of the number of soldiers. At the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC, so as I said, it came about a year later, said this earlier, the Greeks had approximately 80,000. That's actually a massive number for those days. To 110 apparently, and then the Persian force had about 70 to 120. I mean, that's like rough estimates, but I think we probably did have the lower number. So let's say we had about 80,000 and the Persians likely had about 120,000, but apparently some say they may have had 300,000 to 500,000. There you go. So that even says that. So, okay, all right, well, there's mixed stuff there. So let's go for 300,000 if they did. Maybe they did have 3-1, actually. I don't know. All right, even 2-1, that's still a lot. For every one of our guys, there's 2 of them. Even if there was 3, whatever. The thing is, our spirit is greater, man. You can't test the spirit of the Greeks and how they fought. No other nation ever fought. We never needed the massive numbers to win. We had our wits and we had our spirit, that took us a hell of a long way. So don't hate, congratulate.
But for all Greece and the promise this country holds. Now, here on this rugged patch of earth called Plataea, Xerxes' hordes face obliteration! Just there.
I'm such a Greek, honestly.
Sheer terror gripping tight.
their hearts with icy fingers, knowing full well what merciless horrors they suffered.
I've got to give it to Zack Snyder who directed this, right? He did I mean, it looks really good. I mean, this was, all of this was shot in studio. So all of that was special effects and everything. And it's really good. And the energy was amazing. I remember watching this with my friends. We were teenagers at the time. This came out, what, 20 years ago? I think it was 20 years ago, roughly. Even more than 20 years ago, even. And I remember we all came out of there and we were all like, yeah, that's Greek spirit. But some of them weren't Greek, of course, and they still loved it. But the energy was amazing.
Swords and spears at 300. Get they stand now across the plain at 10,000 Spartans commanding 30,000 free Greeks.
Okay, so he is insinuating there that there's actually 30,000 Greeks in total there.
The enemy outnumbers a paltry 3 to 1. Good odds for any Greek. This day, we rescue a world from mysticism and tyranny.
Mysticism and tyranny. Look, the truth is, actually, and I'll give it a bit to the Persians here, the Persians weren't as mysticizing, whatever the word is, as, as voodoo-y as people think, or as whatever. They actually, if you do your research properly, it does kind of instigate that the Persian king, so someone like Xerxes or his father Darius before him, if they took over a kingdom or a city-state and they didn't want to heavily pack it with Persians, they would have just let them rule in their own way, is the truth. But they would have answered to the greater king, obviously. And this is how a lot of Greece worked back then. Or those areas, if there may have been a general king over different kingdoms. So if you think of things like the Odyssey and the Iliad, Agamemnon was the general king of everyone. And if he wanted to go to war with someone, all the other kingdoms had to follow him. So that's what the Persian kings would have done. So I think it's a bit, they've been vilified a bit more than probably they should have been. But yeah.
And ushering a future brighter than anything we can imagine.
Give thanks, man!
Give thanks, man! To Leonidas and the brave 300! To victory!
Amazing. So that was pretty awesome ending. I gave you a bit of knowledge there about the Battle of Thermopylae, obviously, which allowed the Greeks to get together and to defeat the Persians. To be fair, if it wasn't for the Battle of Salamis as well, which was at sea, if we didn't destroy enough of the Persian ships to allow more Persians to get on land where they needed to, the Battle of Plataea may have never happened to that extent, to be honest, and the general war may have already been lost, a lot of people say. And Themistocles, let's find Themistocles. Themistocles was the general who thought of the idea to bring the Persian ships into the Narrow by Salamis and to surround them and to beat them from the outside. He's the one who thought of that. And funny enough, there was a female general of Xerxes, and she told him to not do it, to not go into Salamis, and it could be dangerous. And Xerxes didn't listen. All the rest of the generals were like, we'll defeat them. We got the numbers. We'll be fine. And actually, she ended up being right. I think her name is something like Artemida or something like that. Fact. Look it up. So, Themistocles, well, rumors as to what happened with him is that because he masterminded this strategy at Salamis, he became a very popular figure after. And so the Greeks had to banish him because he had way too much power and he almost had kingly status. And when that happened in Greece, you were banished because you couldn't, you know, it was too much power for one person. So he actually was banished, and he went to Persia and he went to Xerxes, and Xerxes gave him a kingdom of his own to kind of rule for a bit, and then later asked him to help mastermind bring down the Greeks for revenge, and Themistocles rejected it. He didn't do it, and apparently he killed himself, I believe is the truth. Some rumors also say that some research points to that Themistocles himself got a bit up his own, you know, he got a bit big-headed basically, and he was, you know, himself looking to grab power because of the name he created for himself. You know, which is not impossible. I mean, it's not impossible at all for that to have happened. So I love it, man. The story of the 300 Spartans, which of course were actually kind of about 7,000 Greeks to start with, along with the 300 Spartans. Yeah, a very important battle, the battle of Thermopylae, that allowed enough time for the Greeks to gather themselves and to fend off the Persians at the Battle of Salamis and Plataea. Very importantly, would we have all been Persians today should that not have happened? Not a terrible thing either to have been Persian, maybe, who knows? The Persian ladies are certainly very beautiful ladies. I know a lot of them. So anyway, that is it from me today. I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. Please do subscribe, join, like, comment, please. I'm trying to grow my channel and there's a lot more fun videos. Listen, I'm Greek Cypriot myself, and I do believe Greek Cypriots, we are essentially Greek. So I love a lot of things to do with being Greek. So that's what my kind of thing is going to be on my YouTube channel half of the time. But then the other half, I'm going to, you know, do some more videos that are fun. I live in London, so I try to get some stuff in there with London, with the UK, etc. And other interesting things, philosophizing about other things. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. Have a good one.